little sucker. What the hell? What is it, that light? Who the hell's over there? That's gotta be Dale always playing tricks. We should shoot him, shouldn't we?
I should do it for your friends. I don't know, I should get out of here.
I'm out of here too. Back to my channel. I am back from a long weekend away in Williamsburg, Virginia to bring you Friday the 13th Part 7, the New Blood review, the next installment of our Friday the 13th franchise reviews. This film came out May 13th of 1988, had a budget of $2.8 million, and upon release it made $19.1. So this was a fairly profitable film for Paramount Pictures. It's rated R, although it did take 9 submissions to the MPAA to get the R rating. A lot of excise gore footage was taken out of this film. I know a lot of fans would love to have an unrated version. Unfortunately, the film footage of it was destroyed. What's left is some VHS copies of it. You can see the footage on the Blu-ray in this box set or in previous boxes released by Paramount. And there is definitely a lot of gore footage that was really exercised from this film. And this film's an hour and 28 minutes long. Now, John Carl Buechler came in to direct this film. John Carl Buechler was a makeup effects artist throughout most of his career. The man has since passed away, unfortunately. But he also directed some films. Before this, he directed Troll and Cellar Dweller. And he brought in Kane Hodder. This is the first installment of the franchise that Kane Hodder played Jason. He had worked with Kane Hodder as a makeup effects artist on a little film called Prison, directed by Rennie Harlan, which if you've never seen that, that's a pretty cool little haunted prison flick. There's definitely some Viggo Mortensen's in that film as well. If you've never got a chance, check that one out. It's a pretty cool little film. Now in this film we have Terry Kaiser as Dr. Cruz. Terry Kaiser is remembered by most people as Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's 1 and 2. And Laura Park Lincoln plays Tina, our main final girl, on our main person who is actually somebody that can stand up to Jason on a mano-a-mano kind of level. Now, this installment of the franchise was meant originally conceived to be a matchup between Freddy and Jason back in the 80s. Paramount and New Line were already talking about merging those two franchises, but they can never hash out the rights portion of that problem, so we never got that until the early 2000s when we finally got Freddy vs. Jason, because New Line owned Jason and Freddy, so they were able to do it by then. But they were talking about it back in the 80s, and this was meant to be that. That's kind of why they went in the direction they did, where this is kind of like a Jason versus Carrie type film. And originally this was titled, at least the script was called, Jason's Destroyer, which we'll get into right now. Being this film, we see this young girl running out to this boat dock, getting in the boat and going out into the lake a little bit. And we hear her father and her mother arguing, and we hear the sound of her father hitting her mother. And her father comes out to the end asking her, pleading with this little girl to come back into shore. And she goes, I hate you. And she starts making the dock go up and down, and it collapses, and the father drowns in the lake. And we fast forward, we meet her as an adult, 18, 19 years old. And her and her mom are going back to their house on Crystal Lake with her doctor, played by Terry Kaiser. And she has a lot of bad memories, and she's haunted by that night because she blames herself for killing her father, which, let's be honest, she did kill her father. And there's another group of, well, they look like mid-20-somethings, but in the house next door, going to throw a birthday party for the one guy's cousin, and his cousin Michael. And right away, Tina starts having visions of that night that her father died. And one night, she's frustrated with her doctor, and she runs out to the dock, which is not as elaborate as it once was when she was younger. And she tries to bring her father back to life because she has telekinesis powers, and instead she unleashes Jason from his watery tomb from part 6. And Jason bursts out of the water, she passes out, and Jason's alive again. Now, one of the positives about this film, this isn't my favorite Friday film in the franchise, although I do enjoy it to some level, although it's okay. I love Jason's design, first and foremost. I love that you can see his kneecap, you can see his spinal column, you can see his rib cage, you can see all the damage and wear and tear on his body from over the years. So I appreciate the attention to detail the special effects crew had towards Jason as a monster. And John Carl Buechler, in his interview for this, the making of documentary, he even says how he wanted to show all the damage and show his ribcage hanging out and his spinal column. And they did a really nice job with it. And Kane Hodder is a really good Jason in this film. I love his look. That's my main highlight of this film. I love the look of Jason. And we're introduced to these teens. They're going to have a party. None of them are particularly memorable or likable. Even Laura Parker Lincoln as Tina, she's fine, but she's so whiny. And it's played so serious for a good portion of it that I really don't care. I just want to get to the part where Jason's killing people and then she battles Jason, which we get in the last 15 minutes of the film pretty much. I mean, her doctor is definitely a scumbag. We see that. He's trying to use her to film it to gain notoriety. We can see that he's not a very good person. I don't know how her mother can't see it until towards the end, until right before she gets killed. And Jason comes back and starts killing people in creative ways, although we don't get to see much of the aftermath because the MPA butchered the crap out of this film. As you can see if you check out the extra footage. You can find it on YouTube too if you search for it. And pretty much then, like I said, the last 15 minutes is probably the best part of this film, besides the look of Jason. Because some of the kills, they cut it so much you don't see much. So there's not much, we're watching these films for the creative kills. You don't get to see much at all. It's a very sanitized version because they cut it so much to the bone. There's a few moments when he gets the one guy with the axe to the face that you get to see the aftermath a little bit. But overall, you don't get to see too much, honestly, in this film. In the last 15 minutes, we get our battle when Tina unleashes her powers upon Jason. And that is honestly the most entertaining part of this film. The last 15 minutes of the film is the most entertaining. The rest of it's okay. The last 15 minutes is really the showcase with the mechanical effects, the makeup effects. We see Jason's face because she tears off his mask. I like the look of Jason in this film again. I like his look. Although I like part 4 without the mask better, but I still think this is a really cool design, and I like the body design with, like you see his ribcage and his spinal column. I love all that. Attention to detail. And Tina, now I don't like how they kill Jason. I think it's a bullshit ending. I never liked it even when I was a kid, but pretty much Jason is down in the dock and ready to kill Tina, and then one guy is left over, and Tina makes her father come out of the lake, grab Jason with a chain around his neck and pull him into the lake, and that's the end of Friday the 13th Part 7. Yes, that's how she kills Jason. I never liked that ending. I'm not big on an ending. You got like 10 to 15 minutes that are really good, then you get that ending which isn't really that good, and that's the end of the film. Other than that, the film's just okay. It's definitely better than Part 5, but after how good 6 is, this is kind of, you can tell it's not as good. And the directing's okay by John Carl Buechler. He had directed a few films up until this point, so he was experienced in that department. And the makeup effects are top notch here, no doubt, because his crew did the makeup effects. It's just the story. The whole highlight of the film is Tina versus Jason once we get to that part. The rest of it is completely forgettable. Some of the kills are memorable, like the sleeping bag kill, which they recreated in Jason X, which we'll talk about once we get to Jason X. But most of the other kills are so lifeless because the MPA made them cut it. I don't blame the filmmakers for that. The MPA had it out for these films at this point. So they really cut it down to the bone. Like when a kill happens, you don't see much of anything really. And that's unfortunate because really at this point in this franchise, that's what we're here for. But overall, this film's okay. The acting's okay. Some of the actors aren't the greatest. Laura Parker Lincoln's fine as Tina. I think she comes off a little too much. I know what she's going through, but they don't set up enough for me to care as much, honestly. And the other characters are disposable. We're just there to watch them get killed or lambs for the slaughter like most of these films. There's nothing that particularly stands out about any of them. You got the stoner, you got the girl that likes the stoner, you got the kind of slutty chick, you got the hot bitchy chick who's mean to everybody. But they're all totally forgettable, and some of the acting's okay, but mostly the mother's acting's pretty good, although why she can't see that the doctor's a scumbag is beyond me. Terry Kaiser's good as a scumbag doctor. But overall, the rest of the actors, they're okay at best. They're not the greatest. It's filmed okay. They filmed this in Alabama. This is the only one they filmed in Alabama. But overall, I would give this one a 6.5 out of 10. It's enjoyable enough. I can watch it and have fun with it, especially for the last 15 minutes, which was my favorite part. But there's nothing special about this. It's just an okay entry into the Friday the 13th franchise. Definitely a step up from Friday the 13th Part 5, but definitely a step down from Part 6. 6.5 out of 10 for Friday the 13th Part 7. What is your thoughts on this installment? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. It's free. Help me get to 400 subscribers and onwards. I'd appreciate that. Share this video. I greatly appreciate that as well. I'll be back later in this week, and Don't Breathe 2 might be on the horizon as well. I might go check that out this week in the theaters. But until then, I hope you're all doing well out there, and bye.